Look, I need to be honest with you right from the start. This is going to frustrate you. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Nintendo isn't just making business decisions anymore. They're playing a completely different game. One where the goal isn't to make you happy, but to control exactly when and how you're allowed to be disappointed. And the worst part, it's working. Let me take you through every single layer of this, because the more you understand about how Nintendo operates now, the clearer it becomes that something fundamental has changed. This isn't the company that defined your childhood, this is something else entirely. Let me walk you through something that should genuinely make you angry. Nintendo has figured out that they can time their announcements to avoid consequences. Not from you, from investors. And in doing so, they're treating their most loyal fans like collateral damage in a game of financial chess. Here's how it works, and I want you to pay attention to the specific details, because this is documented behavior that repeats over and over. When Nintendo has good news, they announce it during market hours. When the stock is already climbing, when investors are feeling optimistic, they'll drop a fastest selling console announcement right alongside something they know fans will hate. Take the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Switch 2 Edition announcement. Nintendo dropped this news right before the Mario movie trailer. Why? Because the movie hype would drown out the disappointment. The stock would stay stable because investors would see Mario movie success and not fans are furious about glorified DLC. But here's where it gets really calculated. Nintendo didn't just randomly pick this timing. They've been planning this coordination for months, maybe years. Every major announcement goes through multiple departments: marketing, investor relations, product development. They all sit in a room together and ask, when can we announce this to minimize damage? This isn't conspiracy theory. This is documented pattern that repeats consistently enough that you can predict it. In July, Nintendo announced a partner direct on a day with positive news about something else entirely. The context around Nintendo was good. Investors were happy, stock was stable or climbing, fans were expecting a real Nintendo Direct, the kind where Nintendo themselves shows off their big upcoming games. You know what they got instead? A showcase of third-party games. Games that most Nintendo fans don't buy Nintendo consoles for in the first place. The disappointment was real. Twitter blew up. Reddit threads got thousands of comments. YouTube videos analyzing the disappointment got hundreds of thousands of views. But none of that mattered to Nintendo because the stock didn't tank. The positive news from earlier in the week carried them through. Then September happened. Nintendo had to announce something genuinely bad. A $70 Mario Galaxy Twin Pack. Is it a new game? Is it a remake with updated graphics? Nope, it's just two games that originally released in 2007 and 2010, bundled together, sold at a premium price with almost no new content. Nothing that justified the cost. So what did they do? They announced it on a Friday afternoon. Let me explain why this matters. Nintendo almost never does Friday announcements. Their typical pattern is Tuesday through Thursday, during normal business hours in Japan. This maximizes the visibility of good news and allows for a full week of media coverage. But Friday, that's what PR professionals call a news dump. It's when you release information you want to bury, because by the time people process it and get angry, it's the weekend. The news cycle moves on, other stories take over, and when Monday comes around, the outrage has already peaked and started to decline. For investors specifically, Friday afternoon announcements are even more strategic. The Japanese stock market closes by Monday morning when trading resumes, the immediate emotional reaction has passed. Investors see the weekend discussion, the analysis, the well-actually defenders coming out, and the price impact is softened. These stocks still tanked on Monday. The Mario Galaxy Twin Pack announcement was so poorly received that even the weekend buffer couldn't completely protect Nintendo's stock price. But the damage was contained. Instead of a massive single-day drop that might trigger panic selling, it was a more gradual decline that looked like normal market fluctuation. And now they're using financial manipulation tactics to avoid accountability to their own fans. Here's where it gets even worse. And this is where you really start to see how calculated every single decision has become so. You have to stay with me, hope it clocking in. The Mario Movie Direct was announced on a Sunday, not a Wednesday, not even on a Tuesday, a Sunday when the Japanese stock market is completely closed. That's when US markets are closed too, when every major financial market in the world is shut down. Why does this matter? Let me break down exactly what Nintendo was thinking. They knew that a movie-focused Direct would anger fans. Not some fans, most fans. The core Nintendo audience that watches Directs isn't interested in movie marketing. They want game announcements, they want to see what's coming to Switch 2. They want information about the next 3D Mario, the next Zelda, the next big exclusive that justifies buying Nintendo hardware. A movie Direct gives them none of that. It's not what the core audience wants, and Nintendo absolutely knew this. So they had a problem. They need to market the movie that's non-negotiable. The movie is a huge revenue opportunity, and cross-promotion with the game division makes financial sense. But they also knew that announcing a movie-focused direct would create immediate backlash from the core gaming audience. The solution? Announce it when investors can't react. Sunday announcement means that by the time Monday morning rolls around and markets open, the initial wave of anger has already crested. The "this is disappointing" takes have already been published. The YouTube videos have already gone up. And crucially, the defensive fans, the ones who will make excuses for anything Nintendo does, have had time to craft their counter-arguments. This isn't the first time Nintendo has done this. When Nintendo adjusted Switch prices, and let's be clear, adjusted means increased in corporate speak, they did it on a Sunday too, when they announced changes to their online service that reduced features or increased costs Sunday. Anytime Nintendo expects negative public reaction that might affect stock price, they hide behind the weekend. They're not trying to avoid making you angry. They've accepted that as inevitable. What they're trying to avoid is your anger affecting their stock price. That's the part they actually care about. Nintendo has made a calculated decision that should genuinely concern every core gamer watching this, and it's a decision that explains almost every other frustrating choice they make. They're not making games for you anymore. They're making games for parents who buy whatever has Mario on the box. They're making games for casual buyers who walk into a store once a year during the holidays. They're making games for people who don't watch directs, don't follow gaming news, and don't care about frame rates or resolution, or whether something is a port or a new release. The Super Mario Bros. Wonder Switch 2 edition is the perfect example of this philosophy in action. Let me break down exactly who this product is designed for, because it's not designed for you. It's a 2D Mario game from 2023, repackaged with minimal additions, being sold as a major Switch 2 release. The new content amounts to a few extra levels, some multiplayer tweaks, maybe a new character or two. Nothing that fundamentally changes the experience, nothing that justifies calling this a new game. Who is this for? Not for people who already own Wonder. They're being asked to pay $20 for what amounts to a small DLC pack, except it requires buying new hardware to access it. Not for people who wanted a real 3D Mario for the 40th anniversary. They've been waiting 9 years for the next Odyssey, and instead, they're getting an enhanced port of a 2-year-old 2D platformer. This is for casual buyers. Parents who see the Mario movie with their kids and think, oh, there's a new Mario game. Let's talk about the elephant in the room that Nintendo refuses to acknowledge, refuses to address, and seems to hope you'll just forget about if they ignore it long enough. Where is the next 3D Mario? Super Mario Odyssey came out in October 20. It's now January 20. That's 8 years and 3 months. By the time a new 3D Mario actually releases, we're likely looking at 9 to 10 years minimum. For context, let me walk you through every 3D Mario release before this unprecedented drought. Roman Polanski for 1996, Super Mario Sunshine 2002, 6 years later, Super Mario Galaxy 2007, 5 years later, Super Mario Galaxy 2 2010, 3 years later, Super Mario 3D Land 2011, Super Mario 3D World 2013, 2 years later, Super Mario Odyssey 2017, 4 years later. Next 3D Mario, the longest gap before this was 6 years, between Mario 64 and Sunshine. And that gap is somewhat understandable. Nintendo was transitioning from N64 to GameCube. The game was a massive technical leap, and 3D gaming was still being figured out. But even during that 6-year gap, we got Mario games. Mario Party launched on N64. Paper Mario launched Mario Tennis. Nintendo kept the Mario brand active even when the flagship 3D platformer was in development. The entire span from Sunshine 2002 to 3D World 2013 was 11 years, and that included Galaxy 1, Galaxy 2, and 3D Land. 3 full 3D Mario releases, plus multiple spin-offs and side games. We used to get a new 3D Mario every 3 to 4 years like clockwork. It was reliable. Every Nintendo console got its own defining 3D Mario platformer. The N64 had Mario 64, the GameCube had Sunshine, the Wii had Galaxy 1 and 2, the 3DS had 3D Land, the Wii U had 3D World, the Switch had Odyssey. What does Switch 2 have? An enhanced port of Wonder, a 2D game. The first Nintendo console in decades to launch without even a 3D Mario in development being shown. And before you say, but there have been Mario games. Yes, I know. I need to address this because Nintendo defenders always bring it up, and it misses the point entirely. Yes, Wonder came out in 2023, and it's great. Wonderful, creative, charming 2D platformer. But that's not what we're talking about. Yes, Paper Mario the Origami King and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door remake came out. Different genre, different team, doesn't count as the mainline 3D platformer. Yes, yes, Luigi's Mansion 3 was excellent. That's a Luigi game made by Next Level Games, not the main Mario team. Yes, there are Mario Kart updates and Super Mario Party games, and Mario sports titles. None of those are 3D Mario platformers. We're not talking about whether the Mario brand is active. We're talking about the flagship 3D Mario platformers. The ones made by Nintendo EPD Tokyo. The ones that define console generations. The ones that push creative boundaries and introduce new mechanics that influence the entire industry. Super Mario Odyssey was one of those games. Cappy, the capture mechanic, the open-ended exploration, the movement tech, the post-game content. It was special. It was the kind of game that reminded people why Nintendo is Nintendo. Everyone expected Odyssey DLC. It made perfect sense. The game was structured perfectly for it. You had all these different kingdoms, but some felt underutilized. The Seaside Kingdom could have been expanded. Everyone wanted a full Delfino Isle return as a callback to Sunshine. The movement mechanics were so good that players wanted more places to use them, but Nintendo said no. They added Luigi's Balloon World, a simple minigame mode. They added a few costumes. They added VR support for a handful of levels on the Labo VR kit that almost nobody bought. And that was it. No real DLC, no major expansions, nothing that justified the years of waiting. Why? Because they knew they could resell you old Mario games instead. Think about what Nintendo has sold us instead of a new 3D Mario. Really think about it. Let me list every single Mario-related release that Nintendo chose to publish instead of developing the next flagship 3D Mario platformer. Super Mario 3D All-Stars. 3 old games, Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy. Minimal updates, straight ports with resolution bumps, limited time release, artificial scarcity to drive sales, $60 for games that are 15-25 years old. Sold millions of copies, Super Mario 3D World Plus, Bowser's Fury 2021, Wii U port of a game from 2013, Bowser's Fury was maybe 3 to 5 hours of new content, $60 full price for an 8-year-old game, sold millions of copies. Super Mario Galaxy individual releases 2024, games already included in 3D All-Stars, sold separately for people who missed the limited window, full price for 15-plus-year-old games, still selling. Every single one of these sold millions of copies. Every single one made Nintendo significant profit with minimal development investment. Nintendo looked at those numbers and made a calculated business decision. Why spend 5 years and $100 million developing a brand new 3D Mario when we can just repackage old ones and make almost as much money with a fraction of the investment? I need you to be honest with yourself here. You probably bought at least one of these. Maybe you bought all of them. I'm not judging you because I listen and don't judge. So I genuinely understand the psychology at work here. When you're desperate for Mario content and Nintendo isn't giving you anything new, you take what you can get. You were hungry and Nintendo was selling you crumbs, but you bought the crumbs because crumbs were all that was available. That's exactly what Nintendo is counting on. They're not stupid. They have psychologists and market researchers and data analysts who understand consumer behavior better than you understand yourself. They know that the core Mario audience is loyal to the point of desperation. They know that if they starve you of new content long enough, you'll buy anything with Mario on it just to scratch that itch. This is called leveraging brand loyalty, and Nintendo does it better than almost any company in the gaming industry. Nintendo knows this. They've seen it happen with every major release. When Breath of the Wild came out, people stopped playing older Zelda games. When Odyssey launched, people moved on from the 3D Mario games they were replaying to fill the void. So they wait. They stretch out the console generation. They make you so hungry for content that you'll buy anything. Even if you've already played it on previous hardware, even if it's basically the same game you already own with minor improvements. And the worst part is that it works. Nintendo's revenue from these re-releases has been enormous. Investors see consistent income from catalog titles. Publishers see that audiences will pay full price for old games. The business model is validated. Why would they change it? There are only 2 realistic scenarios for where the next 3D Mario is in development right now, and honestly, both possibilities are deeply depressing when you think through the implications. Scenario 1. The game is nearly finished, or at least in a very late stage of development. The Mario team has been working on it for the past 4 or 5 years. It's playable from start to finish, and Nintendo is just sitting on it. They're holding it back strategically, using it as a trump card for when they really need it. If this scenario is true, it means the core Mario team, the team responsible for Galaxy, 3D World, and Odyssey, has been focused on projects other than the next flagship 3D Mario for the majority of the past 8 years, which means they're only now, in 2026, starting serious development on the next 3D Mario. If this is the reality, we're looking at 2029 or 2030 at the absolute earliest for the next 3D Mario. More realistically, 2030, 2031. But you want to know something that should genuinely upset you? Game Freak can make incredible games. We know this now because of Beast of Reincarnation. This game, announced at the Xbox Direct, looks absolutely stunning. Seriously, go watch the trailer if you haven't seen it. The visuals are outstanding, genuinely beautiful in a way that makes you stop and appreciate the art direction. The performance looks solid from what we've seen. And you can see the passion it's radiating from every frame of footage. This is a game made by people who wanted to make it, who had a vision, who were given the time and resources to execute that vision properly, unlike that trash Pokemon ZA. And guess what, Nintendo fans, the people who have loyally bought every Pokemon game for decades will not get to experience the best work Game Freak has ever done. PC users will get it, Xbox users will get it, PlayStation users will get it, but Nintendo? No. For years, Pokemon fans have been blaming Game Freak for increasingly disappointing releases. Scarlet and Violet ran like absolute garbage. The graphics looked outdated, even by Switch standards. But now we know the truth. Game Freak isn't the problem. Not at all. The real problem is the fucked up Nintendo and their shitty low effort idea called Pokemon, just same slop always. So better thank God that we have Pal World because it's actually better in every way. And also they actually care. Yeah. Pocket Pair, the developers of Pal World, you know, that Pokemon with Guns game that Nintendo tried to sue into oblivion, has a hiring policy that's genuinely incredible. Here's what they do. If you want to be a game designer at Pocket Pair, you have to submit screenshots of your Steam library, your playtime, your game collection. But it doesn't stop there. If you make it past that initial screening, you get called in for an interview. And during that interview, you have to explain the specifications and mechanics of the games you've played most. You have to analyze what makes those games stand out compared to others in the same genre. You have to prove that you don't just play games, you understand games. The CEO, Takuro Mizobe, confirmed this policy publicly. The PR officer, Bucky, backed it up. Hilariously true, Pocket Pair is built by gamers, and the CEO is adamant to keep it that way. We have the luxury of being 100% independent. They're not beholden to shareholders demanding annual releases. They can make decisions based on what will make the best game, rather than what will make the most money fastest. Now, some people might find this policy offensive. You're discriminating based on hobbies. Not everyone can afford a big Steam library. What about console gamers? But here's why this policy is actually brilliant. AAA studios are increasingly driven by executives who don't play games. Pocket Pair is deliberately pushing back against that trend. They want to hire people with genuine passion for game development. People who know what gamers want to see because they are gamers themselves. So yeah, that's all for now, and also looking forward to Nintendo Direct, which is next week if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, and bye.